How's it guys, this is Dayvy FPL and welcome back to another Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now this is going to be quite a sad moment for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of you. This is going to be the last preview for the 2018/2019 FPL season, Game Week 38. The finale, the end game of the season. It's going to be a tough one. I know it feels like someone's cutting onions in here, but on a more serious note, I know that this probably hasn't been the best season for a lot of people, but I think a lot of us are going to look back on it with some fond memories, as there will be memories, and it kind of wraps up the unpredictability and just the overall craziness that is Fantasy Premier League, and it just basically sums up fantasy football. And I think it sums up a lot of the reasons why we love the game and why we hate the game, and probably why we love to hate the game more personally. You know, it's going to be it's been a good season, and I'm sure it's going to be a nice Game Week 38 to kind of wrap it all up. That being said, it could end up everyone getting 1 point and then everyone ending up with like 11 points, but that'll probably be quite a good way to sum up the season. But I'm sure there's going to be quite a lot of big scores out there, and as I said, a lot of unpredictability in the final game week of this season. So this video is going to be the Game Week 37 review and then the Game Week 38 preview. I'm having to record this video before the Man City vs Leicester game tonight, but I have seen the lineups, and it's basically full strength from both sides. Only surprise really being that Phil Foden starts, but I don't really think many people own him. So the majority of people owning Sterling and Aguero, they both do start, and Vardy also starts for those of you who are starting him in your lineup. As I said, this is recorded before the Man City vs Leicester game, so please don't take this overall rank very seriously. Obviously, the rank in the title of the video and the one in the description is going to be the real rank. I will update that after the game, and you'll be sure to get the latest news. Currently, we are sitting on a game week rank of 28, but that is sure to change due to about 95% of the top 10k still having their captaincies left. I personally have Aguero, but a lot of people do have Sterling. Aguero, however, is a little bit more owned and more captained. He fills up around 50% of the top 10k captaincy, so should see some rises or drops in rank depending on what happens tonight. Personally, I don't really know what's going to happen. I think that it's going to be quite a tight game. However, that if City do win, I think it's going to be quite a high-scoring affair. So, as I said, I can't really predict that game, but we'll see afterwards. So just to kind of wrap up this Game Week 37 review, we're currently on 26 points, which is absolutely dreadful, and that is well below the average of 37. However, the top 10k's average is a little bit less than that. Strangely, it usually is a lot higher than the normal average, but it's only seen us drop in places, I think around 3 places if I'm not mistaken. So for this score, it's not a lot of places to drop, but I'm just hoping that maybe we can get a green arrow after tonight's fixtures. So to kind of summarize the Game Week 37 review, I'm going to kind of talk about Spurs collectively, as there's not much to say about them. There is a lot, but not much in my team. We currently have Lloris on 3 points, who will end the game week with that. Only the 1 save point. He was on par for 8 points, and that was even after Spurs had been down to 9 men, but however they did concede in the first minute of stoppage time from a Nathan Ake header, so that saw us a drop from 8 points to 3. So lucky that he ended up keeping that extra save point or extra point for not conceding, as Spurs did go down to 9 men. So I was kind of expecting maybe a 1-pointer or a 2-pointer, but happy that Lloris got that save point. Then we go on to Erickson and Son. Erickson overall had a quiet game, kind of had a little bit more action in the first half before the sendings off, but then Son was the main man to talk of. He ended up with -2 after receiving a red card in the 43rd minute. If you go and look at the red card, it's pretty justified. He ends up, after getting a little bit hit on the back of the head from a foul, he ends up standing back up and kicking out and then pushing over one of the Bournemouth players. So probably a deserved red card. I know a lot of people are saying it might have been a little bit soft, but I kind of think in the modern day, if you lash out in aggression, it's almost always going to be a red card. So overall disappointed. Son was actually one of my captaincy options this week. I thought that Spurs would go to Bournemouth and overall kind of dominate the game. They did do that, however, in the first half, but kind of was shooting all the time at the middle of the goal and straight at the goalkeeper. That being said, the debutant of the Bournemouth goalkeeper, 19 years old, ended up having a crack of a game, saved what was put at him, so can't really blame him too much for that. But in terms of the Spurs attackers, I think that they could have done a lot better on their finishing, and if you watch the game overall, they looked a little bit out of it, especially Lucas Moura, who ended up missing about a hat-trick of chances. But I think overall the Spurs players were quite frustrated with their first half showing, and I think that was resonated in Son's lashing out. So nothing much came of that game in the end for me. Then we have Bolly with 6 points. They ended up keeping the clean sheet. I will also talk about Wolves collectively. Has had Jota and Jimenez. Jota ended up missing about 5 chances. Very disappointed in him. I thought he was quite clinical, but obviously not. Looked like a good player to bring in. It's a little bit unlucky for those of you who did bring him in, and then he ends up missing basically every opportunity. Had some good shots, but overall weren't on target, and that's why he ended up getting 2 points along with Jimenez. Jimenez had some nice linker play with Jota, but didn't really have that many shots, I do believe. So happy with the Bolly, a clean sheet. Obviously Doherty, the big point scorer in that game, after picking up the assist after a very well taken goal from Dendoncker. Robbo with 1 point after that Newcastle-Liverpool thriller, ended up 3-2, so not a great day for defences, but Robbo played a good game overall, but unfortunately you don't get points for that in FPL. With Trent Alexander-Arnold with the 2 assists, so he ended up being the major point scorer in this one. Picked up 3 bonus points as well, I do believe, so I'm happy that I ended up owning him as well. Obviously could have gone for the Liverpool triple up or double up in attack, but opted for the defenders as they were a little bit cheaper, and happy that I ended up bringing Trent in as a Robertson owner. If I only owned Robertson, I think I would be quite jealous of the Trent owners over these past few game weeks. Then we still have Sterling tonight, along with my captain Aguero, so we'll see what they have to do. Then we have Mane with 2 points as well. Had some opportunities, but overall was a little bit quiet. Salah definitely looked the more informed player, but unfortunately Salah did pick up that concussion injury after a collision with Dubravka. Looks like he will be missing out on the Champions League fixture midweek, but Klopp has come out today and said that he will be fine for the weekend fixture against Wolves. So as I said, I can't really take this rank to heart too much, as there's a lot of players playing tonight, the likes of Laporte, Sterling and Aguero, all highly owned in the top 10k, so we just got to kind of see what happens, and I'll definitely update you with the title of the video explaining where we are currently sitting in the rankings. So I'm just going to go on to the Game Week 38 preview. And before I talk about my team, I'm just going to talk about a couple guidelines that you guys can abide to kind of get the best performers. So on the final game weeks of the season, I always favor the home teams. Main reason is that a lot of players and teams generally do a little bit of a victory parade around the stadium, even if they have not performed that well. This is kind of customary on the last game week of the season, as the players just want to thank the fans for coming out and supporting them for the whole entire season. So they always kind of want to put on a better performance if they are the home team, as you don't want to kind of end your parade on a losing parade. It always wants to be a victory parade. So I can always see the home teams kind of performing, and I always generally back the home teams. As I said at the start of the video, Game Week 38 is always an unpredictable one. It's even generally in football, it's hard to predict football games, but especially on the last game week of the season, you never know. Obviously, I take that with a pinch of salt. If it is Man City versus Brighton, it's pretty much a little bit of a mismatch, so can see Man City definitely getting a win there. So generally, this is a general guideline to always back the home team, but obviously there are some exceptions. So currently leading the line, I do have Aguero and Jimenez. However, this is probably likely to change. I just always have had a plan of transferring out a Wolves attacker for someone else, as I just don't really favour the Liverpool away fixture, especially on the last game week of the season, and if the title race does go down to the last game week of the season. But starting in goal, I've opted for Foster against West Ham, just because Spurs have looked a little bit out of it, and they do play the midweek fixture, so I could see maybe some rotation there. Spurs have generally wrapped up top 4 right now, so can see them kind of maybe doing some rotation. And just generally, Everton is not a great fixture at all. Everton have had a massive rise in form currently. So you can see them scoring against Spurs. So I've opted for Foster against West Ham. I know West Ham aren't looking the worst. Looked quite good this weekend against Southampton, I do believe. So just kind of going for maybe more save points there. Foster should wrap up some extra save points and maybe even a bonus point there. Then I've gone for Valerie against Huddersfield, a little bit self-explanatory. I know Huddersfield did play better against Man United, but that was basically because I think it was a home fixture. And for them, it was kind of their last game week of the season to impress the crowd and thank them for the support. So Valerie against Huddersfield, kind of a no-brainer. And then I'm still going to go for the Robertson-Trent double up against Wolves at home. I just think that even from not from a defensive standpoint, but from an attacking standpoint, they are absolutely worth the money and are getting loads of assists right now. Then the midfield is basically summed up by Man City, Liverpool and Spurs. Still undecided on Jota or Jimenez. Could opt for both of them out for -4, but we'll talk about that a little bit in the transfer options. I will 100% be transferring out Son this week. Because of the red card, he's obviously banned, but just hoping that Erickson can maybe get some returns, even an assist against Everton. Hoping that they do kind of turn up their form a little bit for the last game week of the season, having been in the new stadium for not that long and wanting to end off the game week and the season overall on a high note. Then we got Mane against Wolves. Liverpool are going to be raring to go if the title race does go down to the final day. Would probably opt for Salah if you do need to choose one of the two. Even Salah maybe as a captaincy option this game week. In terms of captaincy, I've opted for Aguero right now. I just think that Brighton away is a better fixture than Wolves at home. Wolves are no shabby team and they could set up quite defensively, so probably opting for a little bit more of Man City. I think that generally their game style of ball playing and ball keeping is going to kind of wear down Brighton a little bit, and I can see a lot of possession being in that game and probably a lot of City goals, to be honest. So opting for Aguero right now, as he is probably going to be in that golden boot race and is going to be raring to go and try and get another one under his belt. If I had to choose a captain this week, it probably would be between Aguero and Salah. As I said, Salah is going to be back for the game against Liverpool, and at home Liverpool always play well, so can see quite a few goals being scored there, even though it is against Wolves. So the two options I would have is probably Aguero or Salah. If you don't own any of them, I guess you could look maybe at Hazard, a Chelsea option, maybe even a Spurs option. I just don't favour them right now. If you really need an outside punt, you can probably go for a Southampton player, as they do play Huddersfield, and that is quite a nice fixture. Now, in terms of transfers, this is going to be my worst case scenario, basically. So I'm giving you guys, if I had to make the most transfers, you can see me taking a -4 hit. This will see Son and Jota and Jimenez all going out the door. I would probably play all of these players that I'm transferring in, as my bench isn't that great. So it might be worth going for a -4, but I think that might be a little bit too overkill for the last game week of the season, as you can't really have that many game weeks to repay the hit. But if I do go for it, this is probably how I'll be lining up. I will be transferring in Bernardo Silva. As I said, that Manchester City fixture is quite good, so Bernardo Silva has been a set starter and he's just a great overall player, so we'll be transferring him in. Also, due to a little bit of a punt, a lot of people have Laporte in defense, so they can't really triple up on the City attack, so that could be a little bit of a differential for the last game week of the season. Then I've also gone for Redmond, just because he's playing Huddersfield. It was a little bit of a shock benching this game week, as he came on at half-time for Danny Ings, but can see him probably starting and then maybe scoring some goals against Huddersfield. Then I've gone for Rushford. I know this is quite a controversial pick, as Man United aren't on the best form. I just think that Man United are playing at home and Cardiff have been relegated, so can see maybe Man United putting on a little bit of a show for their fans. I think they need it, and I think that they kind of have to almost to just put some more hope and passion into the fans after a kind of mediocre end to the season. So if I was to transfer out 3 players, this is the one option, and then this is the other one. This option would see me bringing in Bernardo Silva again, and then Pogba instead of Redmond, and then Long instead of Rashford. Long looks like a set starter this weekend. Danny Ings came off at halftime. Don't know what was in there, if it was injury or just strategic. Pogba, another good option from Man U if you're going to go for a Man U option. Kind of for me, it's only Rashford or Pogba, just due to their price. Alexis Sanchez is a little bit too expensive, and he did come off with an injury in that game, so I don't know if he's going to be fit. The other nice option about this is that it gives me another striking option, I guess, from Southampton, as Redmond kind of plays that striking position but kind of drops back a little bit and is more the supplier, whereas Shane Long is always on the end of those long balls and that kind of stuff. Something to note about this is that if you take this lineup, for example, if I do not favor Bernardo Silva in the end, I could easily upgrade him to Paul Pogba. Not much of an upgrade there in terms of FPL points, but just in terms of price, I could transfer in Pogba and then double up on that Man United attack. I just don't know how much I'm keen on transferring into Man United players after their form right now, but it could be a nice differential for the last game week of the season. So that's basically going to wrap up the video. I think we've talked about a lot of the talking points, especially with my team. I will be creating another video hopefully at the end of the week, which is going to be kind of the weekly Q&A/tips video. So please stay tuned to my Twitter at DayvyFPL. Hopefully we bring you I bring you a tweet that you can reply to and ask any questions you have for the last game week of the season. So keep an eye on that on my Twitter profile. Otherwise, please like the video if you did enjoy it, and subscribe for the last game week of the season. Thanks a lot for 7,000 subscribers. Probably going to be the last milestone we hit. So thanks a lot for all this continued support throughout the season. Otherwise, I'm going to be signing off. This has been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.